She told her ex-husband she was spending New Year's Eve at her mother's house. So why did he show up at her house at 2 a.m. right after she was attacked? This is the story of a photograph, a stock market trader, and the night a hero showed up wearing the wrong mask. This photograph was taken in the early years of their relationship. Morgan was 15, maybe 16 years old. The boy beside her is Rod. To anyone looking at this image, they appear to be the picture of young romance. Two teenagers smiling at the camera, their future stretching out before them like an open road. Morgan believed she had found her forever person. She had no way of knowing that the boy in this photograph would one day become the man who would try to end her life. The camera captured a single second in time, freezing a moment that did not reflect the reality that was already beginning to form behind closed doors. Morgan and Rod dated through high school, their bond deepening with each passing year. To their families and friends, they were inseparable, the couple that everyone assumed would make it. But photographs lie. They capture what we want to see, not what is actually there. In this moment, they were happy, young and in love and full of hope. What the camera did not capture was what was already beginning to grow beneath the surface. What Morgan did not know then was that Rod was not the person he appeared to be. The smile on his face was real, but so was the anger that was already taking root inside him. The seed of violence had been planted long before either of them understood what it would become. And Morgan, young and trusting, had no reason to look for it. She saw a boy who loved her. She did not see the monster he would eventually become. She could not have known that the man who promised to protect her would one day be the one she needed protection from. The photograph remains, a reminder of who they were, and a warning of who he would become. Morgan had no idea about the extent of Rod's family wealth until he inherited his great-aunt and uncle's stock account. It was a significant inheritance, enough to change the trajectory of their lives. Rod began day trading from home, spending hours in his office watching the markets, buying and selling, trying to grow what he had been given. At first, Morgan saw it as ambition. He was a young man trying to build a future for them. But the stock market is unpredictable. It rewards patience and punishes impulsiveness. And Rod, as Morgan would soon discover, was not a patient man. If something did not go his way, he would throw a fit. Morgan would hear random spurts of yelling coming from his office, door slamming, cursing. He would slam the door so hard that it would almost come off the hinge. She would try to help. She would knock on the door and ask if he was okay, and he would respond with rage. "Get out," he would scream, and she would retreat. As the frustration grew, he would put his hands through the walls. He would pick up items and throw them and just scream random horrible things. Morgan described it as terrifying because looking at his eyes during these fits, he was checked out. His eyes were just blank and glazed over like nobody was home. It was as if the person she knew had disappeared, replaced by someone she did not recognize. She would try to calm him down. "Okay, just calm down. Calm down," she would say. But it did not work. He would turn on her, lashing out with words meant to wound. "Just shut up and leave me alone," he would yell. He would tell her he was under pressure to provide such a big lifestyle, as if his anger was somehow her fault. Morgan began to learn a dangerous lesson in those moments. She was learning that trying to help him only made things worse. She was learning to stay quiet. She was learning to disappear. When Morgan found out she was pregnant with twins, she was overjoyed. She believed that children would be the thing that brought them closer together, that Rod would soften, that becoming a father would change him. But Rod started showing signs of his feelings towards having kids being an inconvenience. The children were not a blessing to him. They were a disruption, an annoyance. He never allowed them to sleep in the bed with them. He had massive rules against playing with glitter or slime, things that children naturally want to do. He would yell whenever they spilled something, not a gentle correction, but a loud, aggressive reaction that would make everyone in the house freeze. It came to the point that the kids and Morgan were walking on eggshells. Every movement, every sound, every action had to be carefully calculated to avoid setting him off. That is when Morgan learned to use the closet as her best friend. She would walk into her son or daughter's room, walk into their closet, and close the door behind her. She would lock it and keep the light on. "Come on, everybody in," she would whisper. And she would just keep reassuring herself that he was just having a bad day and needed time to cool off. They were just trying to stay out of the way. She would make it a game for the children, a fun thing they did together. She even put headphones in the closet so she could not listen to his endless banter and mean words. But he would still stand outside the door. He would still pace back and forth, screaming, yelling horrible things. He would tell her she was a bad person, a bad mother. He would tell her she did not care about him. Sometimes she would be in there for 20 minutes, sometimes an hour, sometimes 2 hours. It just depended how long it took him to cool down. She would wait, she would listen, and when the silence finally came, she would emerge, pretending everything was normal. She was becoming an expert at pretending. Towards the end of their relationship, Rod got more and more comfortable having his outbursts in public. The mask was slipping. He was no longer containing his anger to the privacy of their home. Morgan and Rod were invited to a friend's birthday party. They had rented a boat for the weekend. It was supposed to be a kid-free weekend. Morgan's parents watched the twins. Everyone was drinking, laughing, having a good time. It was right at dusk when Morgan decided to go downstairs to their room. Rod came in shortly after her and just started saying, "You're embarrassing me. You're acting immature. You're annoying people. You're making a spectacle out of yourself." She just said, "Fine, I'm just going to go to bed." Then all of a sudden, his clenched fists were striking her face. He was hitting her, grabbing her, scratching her. When he stopped hitting her, he turned the light on. There was blood everywhere from her nose bleeding, but Rod did not stop to help her. He did not call for medical attention. He started gaslighting her. He told her that she got aggressive, that he was trying to hold her back, that she was trying to hit him. He turned the entire incident on her. Jesus Christ, Morgan, you can't keep acting like this when you drink this much. He started telling her that he still loved her, that he was not mad at what she did. He told her that she probably needed to get a little bit of help, that she needed to start acting mature. He had the ability to convince her that she was the one who did it. "I'm not going to let you hurt yourself like this," he said, and that is where he got his control back. He convinced her that she was the one at fault. "Sleep it off," he said. "I'll be back in a little bit." Her friends did not buy the story. After that night, those friends refused to talk to her. They did not understand why she did not have enough respect for herself to speak out. They did not understand that she had been systematically broken down over years. They did not understand that she no longer trusted her own memory. That was the start of him physically starting to hurt her. After the night on the boat, anytime they would argue, he had this look in his eye, a look of desire to want to hurt her. He had never had that before. Something had changed inside him. It was very obvious that he was not her Rod anymore. The man she had married was gone. In his place was someone she did not recognize, someone who enjoyed her fear, someone who wanted to see her bleed. Morgan filed for a divorce. It was the most difficult decision she had ever made, but she knew she had to protect herself and her children. She moved in with her mother temporarily. She thought the hard part was over. She was wrong. Shortly after she filed, Rod decided to sit in her parents' driveway and refused to leave because he wanted to see his kids. Her parents asked him to leave. He refused. The police were called. He told the cops, "I'm allowed to sit here, minding my business." The police told him he was not allowed to sit in someone's driveway, but that he could sit on the street. So he moved his car out onto the street and just sat there, watching, waiting. All in all, Rod was probably there about 2 hours. He was constantly calling her, texting her. "What is going on? I am so sorry. I can change. You know, I need to see my kids." She told him there was nothing to talk about. She told him to go away. He finally just left on his own. Morgan thought that was the end of it. She thought he had finally accepted the reality of the situation. She had no idea that he was just beginning to plan his next move. The divorce was not the end of her nightmare. It was the beginning of something far worse. Rod was not going to let her go. He was going to make sure that if he could not have her, nobody else would either. On New Year's Eve, Morgan was getting pretty intense text messages from Rod, constantly asking her if he could take her out, if she could give him one date, if she would start dating him to win her back. He was trying every angle. Apologies, promises, guilt. Nothing was working. She messaged him and said, "I'm turning my phone off for the evening, and I'm going to go stay at my parents' house for the night," and left it at that. But she did not go to her parents' house. She went home. To her own house, the house she lived in during the marriage, the house filled with memories, the house where she had been terrorized for years. She went there to be alone. It was probably about 8 p.m. Her kids were with her sister. She was thinking, okay, I'm just going to watch a movie, relax. She got in her pajamas. She popped some popcorn. She turned all the lights off. She set her security alarm. For the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of peace. She was alone. She was safe, or so she thought. That is when she felt the sense of someone watching her. It was the first time she had ever felt uneasy in her house. She could not explain it. There was no sound, no movement, just a feeling, a primal instinct that something was wrong. She tried to shake it off. She told herself she was being paranoid. She went to bed. She remembers being woken up not by a sound, but by what felt like somebody staring at her. She opened her eyes, and she saw this figure standing in her bedroom doorway. She screamed so loud that her throat was in excruciating pain. She did not think it was possible to be able to scream like that. But the attacker did not hesitate. He jumped on her. She did not have enough time to get her legs out from the covers or to be able to do anything to get away. She was slammed down back on the mattress. He took her arms, flipped her over onto her stomach, and zip-tied her hands to the back of her body. Then he shoved her head into the pillow. She could not breathe anymore. She was being smothered. She was thinking, okay, this is it. I'm gone. I'm not going to make it. I don't know why this is happening, but I couldn't fight anymore. She started to hit the point of passing out. The last thought she had was, oh my gosh, if I hadn't divorced Rod, I would have had somebody here to keep me safe. What did I do? Now my kids aren't going to have a mom. At the point of passing out, he let go. He let her get a large gasp of air. It was like he was losing the nerve to do it. He got quiet. He picked her head up and yanked a pillowcase over her head. He lifted her off the bed. He walked her outside and pushed her down on the deck pretty aggressively. He said, "You're going to wish that you'd never done this. This is the biggest mistake you've ever made." She said, "I don't know what I've done. I don't know what I've done." He said to her, "Do not get up until you hear 3 car honks, or we will shoot you in the face." And she just laid there, waiting, terrified, unable to see anything. She waited. It seemed like forever. Then she heard footsteps walking down on the concrete on the sidewalk. The footsteps stopped. The pillowcase was ripped off her head, and it was Rod standing there. "Who did this to you?" he asked. Not 1 ounce of her body believed that by chance, he was just hanging out in the neighborhood at 2 a.m. He generally looked shocked when he saw her face. Not in the way of, "Oh my gosh, who could do this to my wife?" But, "Oh my gosh, look what I did to her." She instantly looked at him and said, "Was this you?" He responded with, "Oh, no, I was at my house and someone was tapping on my window and was saying your name like you were in danger." He said, "I couldn't really hear what they were saying, so I instantly jumped in my car and came here." Morgan looked at him and said, "The last time we spoke, I told you I was going to my mom's house. Why didn't you go to my mom's house?" He hesitated. It was just natural. I always think you're here, so I guess I just ran straight here first and forgot." At that moment, Morgan thought to herself, "Be quiet. You are possibly still alone with your attacker, and you need to be cautious of what you say before help gets here. There was still a chance of me not coming out of this alive. Just be quiet. Go along with him. Don't do anything to try to provoke him." She instantly stopped herself and did not say anything else. He got on the phone and called 911. He stated that they had an intrusion, a break-in. But then he said, "It's not a big deal. We don't need the red lights or anything. She's fine. It's no big deal." The officers arrived. They began asking questions. The officer asked Morgan who she thought it could have been, if it was possible that her ex-husband was capable of this. That is when she said, "I think so." The detectives started to turn the story around on Rod. They hit him pretty fast. They pointed out the obvious inconsistencies. You knew she was to be at her parents' house. You knew she was hit. How'd you know she was here? There's no way in hell somebody knocked on your window and said her name, and you immediately come over here because you're going to check on her, the detective said. You want to come over here as the hero unarmed? I wasn't trying to be a hero, Rod said. I was making sure she was okay. But the detectives were not buying it. The story was falling apart. and the evidence was about to seal his fate. A search warrant was executed on Rod's apartment. They found the zip ties in his apartment, the same type used to bind Morgan's hands. They found his computer. The search history showed he was Googling how to kill somebody, how to shoot somebody in the heart. Learning about strangulation. He had been planning this for weeks, and then they discovered his suicide letter and his final letter to Morgan. He had planned on killing her and then killing himself. If he could not have her, he did not want anybody else to have her. This was all premeditated. It was not just a moment of insanity, it was a plan. At about 7 o'clock in the morning, Morgan watched them handcuff him. She just remembers standing there, seeing that, thinking, this is it. He's gone. He's out of my life. This is a picture of somebody that is mentally disturbed and needs a lot of help. This is not her husband in this picture. This is her attacker, the man she had loved, the father of her children, the person she had trusted with her life. He was the one who tried to take it. Rod was charged with attempted murder, kidnapping, aggravated assault, and burglary. The evidence was overwhelming. The zip ties, the computer search history, the letters, the bruises on Morgan's face, the testimony of the first responders. He was found guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to a significant number of years in prison. But the sentence does not erase what happened. It does not erase the years of abuse that led up to that night. It does not erase the trauma. It does not erase the fear. It does not erase the fact that the man who was supposed to protect her almost killed her. Morgan has spent years rebuilding her life. She has become an advocate for domestic violence awareness. She speaks to other women who are in the same position she was in. She tells them what she wishes someone had told her. Abuse does not always start with physical violence. It starts with words. It starts with isolation. It starts with walking on eggshells. If you are in a relationship where you are constantly afraid of the other person's reaction, that is not love. That is control. Morgan wants people to know that the signs are often there long before the first punch. The screaming, the door slamming, the threats, the gaslighting, the blank eyes. The moment you start making excuses for someone's behavior, you are already in danger. She has found a way to move forward, not to forget, but to live, to be present for her children, to teach them what a healthy relationship looks like, to show them that their mother is strong, that she survived, that she is more than the worst thing that ever happened to her. This photograph. This is the image of a girl who had no idea what was coming. She loved a boy who would one day become her nightmare. She trusted someone who would one day try to destroy her, but she survived. And she is telling her story so that others do not have to live through theirs. The man in this photograph is not the man who attacked her on New Year's Eve. Or maybe he was always that man, and she was just the last one to find out. Sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who hurt us the worst, and sometimes the most dangerous person in your life is the one sleeping next to you. Rod will spend many years in prison. Morgan will spend the rest of her life healing, but they are alive. She is alive, and that is the only thing that matters.